Hi, welcome to Saturday Film Fever. I whipped up my reindeer jumper for this. So without further ado, let's get right down to why Bridget Jones' Diary is the ideal holiday movie, especially, but not exclusively so, if you're not really into the conventional type of Christmas movie. First of all, to make this abundantly clear, this movie qualifies without a doubt as a Christmas movie. In fact, it features two different Christmas celebrations in its runtime, both of which mark crucial parts of the story. During the first Christmas celebration, we see Bridget encounter Mark Darcy for the first time since childhood, and them immediately not liking each other. The relationship between her parents isn't in focus yet, but there already appears to be some tension between them. 1 year later, Bridget learns that Mark is indeed just a really good guy, and rather clumsily confesses her feelings for him. Unfortunately, just as he is about to leave the country for a job opportunity that prompts his parents to stress how much they hope he'll get engaged to his colleague. Meanwhile, Bridget's mum has just returned to her dad, who has happily taken her back. While last year's Christmas was all about struggling in the romance department, this year's Christmas is clearly in the mood for love, even though there are still obstacles in the way of a happy end. But we don't just get to celebrate Christmas in the Bridget Jones universe. Bridget is well on her way to falling for Mark Darcy on her birthday until the most iconic fight scene of the 21st century warps her perception of him. And the two finally get together on New Year's Eve. I think that's not a holiday movie. I don't know what could be. Thematically, Bridget Jones' Diary covers a single woman's pursuit of love and acceptance, a rather typical rom-com and holiday movie topic, but it also dives much deeper. In recent years, the movie has been criticized for its depiction of Bridget being seemingly overweight, despite being quite close to, if not the ideal weight for her height, and essentially undesirable to a certain extent. However, this seems to me like the message of the source material got a little lost in translation. In its original column form, Bridget's story was, in fact, a lampoon of women's obsession with love, marriage, and romance, as well as women's magazines such as Cosmopolitan and wider social trends in Britain at the time. Thus, Bridget's struggles are meant to be exaggerated and at times perhaps even more of a figment of her imagination. Column and books being written the way they are probably makes this point more efficiently, but what we may not forget is that what we are watching is, at the end of the day, still Bridget's diary. And the film does include the occasional voice-over sequence to remind us of that.
I will not be defeated by a bad man and an American stick insect. Instead, I choose vodka.
For all we know, Bridget could be an unreliable narrator and could, for example, interpret people to be much more hostile toward her than they actually are. What we see is her own perception of herself, which is certainly flawed, considering that upon closer inspection, she's surprisingly successful in her career, has a decent, dependable friend group, and lives in a charming central apartment in London. Perhaps it's even nicer in today's standards, but the point still stands, I think. She's so close to meeting an impossible societal ideal of being successful, but nonetheless, Bridget clearly tends to feel inadequate and regularly faces judgment at social functions, which sadly seems like a very relatable sensation, often invoked by having to face distant relatives or other unpleasant acquaintances at holiday get-togethers. Moreover, her struggles with herself, as well as her failures and occasional mishaps, make her both relatable and lovable to us. Who wants to see someone who's got it all worked out all the time during what society has turned into arguably one of the most stressful times of the year anyway? Personally, Bridget's Blue Soup is much more likely to help me get through a little holiday fiasco, and by the looks of it, I'm not the only one, because enter the most crucial scene of the film.
I like you. Very much.
Apart from the smoking and the drinking and the vulgar mother and the verbal
No,
diarrhea.
I like you very much. Just as you are.
how hard she finds it to believe this. Once more stresses how she has been so indoctrinated by outward sources to believe that she needs to work on herself and steadily improve in order to be loved and accepted. Mark already liking her directly opposes her constant quest of self-improvement and serves as one of the most crucial messages of both the film and the holiday season. You are not only enough, but also wonderfully lovable, just as you are. In the form of Mark, the movie visualizes two core values: acceptance and forgiveness. While it's doubtful he'll ever forgive Daniel Cleaver for being the absolute worst best friend anyone could ever ask for, and quite frankly, just a horrible person overall, he puts Bridget's initial dislike of him behind him with ease, and decides to open up a new chapter in the rather literal form of getting her a new diary instead. In conclusion, Bridget Jones' Diary is the ultimate Christmas and just general holiday movie for me, because it doesn't sugarcoat the darker aspects of the season, it doesn't shame you for maybe even wishing you could just spend this time on your own without any pressure, and it leaves you with an appropriate happy end that beautifully spreads the true spirit of the holidays beneath all those consumerist layers. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.